Welcome back to the Life of Buddha series. In episode 20, we learned about the first rainy season retreat of Buddha and his first disciples. After preaching the Dharmacakkaprabhasa Sutta and the Anatta Samuppada Sutta, the Buddha continued to teach the five brothers of Kondana. He explained the selfless nature of the five aggregates and advised his disciples to contemplate them to attain liberation. During this time, an important event occurred. Prince Yasa, the son of a wealthy family in Varanasi, came to the Buddha and asked to become a monk. This event created a great stir in the city, attracting the attention of many people. Yasa's parents were initially worried, but after meeting the Buddha, they understood and supported their son's decision. They even invited the Buddha and his disciples to their home to make offerings. During a sermon at Yasa's home, his mother and wife attained stream entry and became the first two female lay followers in the Buddha's order. Yasa's renunciation created a domino effect. His four close friends, Vimala, Subahu, Punnaji, and Gavampati, also came to the Buddha, listened to the Dhamma, and all attained arahantship. They also sought ordination and became bhikkhus. Not stopping there, 50 other friends of this group, all of whom were intellectuals, also came to the Buddha one after another. They also attained arahantship and became monks, renouncing the worldly life. These events marked the rapid development of the Sangha in its early stages. It also showed the strong appeal of the Buddha's teachings to the intellectual and upper classes of society at that time. This episode shows us the beginning of a new spiritual community based on the teachings of the Buddha and its rapid spread in ancient Indian society. The Life of Buddha Shakyamuni, Episode 21. Buddha explains old religious traditions. Perhaps the conditions in Varanasi were just right. It was now the rainy season. The water of the Ganges River was rising, overflowing its banks, making it difficult to go on alms round, and temporary shelters needed to be built to accommodate 60 people. The Buddha discussed with the five elders to arrange and assign food and lodging. However, just a few days later, everything became easy again. The merchant families, relatives, and servants of the princes came to visit. After seeing that they could not convince their sons and masters, on the contrary, they were convinced, so they automatically ordered people to buy materials and made cups and bowls here and there for them. Then there was the problem of lack of robes, bowls, and other necessary items. The families offered them all. During his stay here, during the clear weather, the Buddha asked Kondanya to convene the Sangha to preach important Dhamma talks. Although these monks, the intellectual and noble celibate assembly, the elite of society, were all arahants, they still had much to learn about the details of the Dhamma and the Vinaya as applied to life. The Buddha preached a sermon on the correct direction of the mind, that is, wise intention, yoniso manasikara, at all times, at all times. The direction of the mind is like the rudder of a boat. The direction in which the rudder is directed is the direction in which the boat will go. Likewise, if the mind is wrongly directed, unwise intention, ayonisa manaskara, the entire body and mind will be distorted. All feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and cognitions will be distorted. The Tathagata also relies on this correct and true direction of the mind, which is the decisive factor in attaining the fruit of supreme enlightenment. Later, when traveling in this world, when preaching the Dharma to save living beings, the bhikkhus must always be mindful of this, and also often teach people this important thing. In the second sermon, the Buddha declared that he and the assembly of monks here had now escaped all the fetters that bind them in the human and heavenly realms. They were no longer entangled in any net of sensual desire, lust, or love, whether gross or subtle. At the end of the sermon, there were a number of questions related to cause and effect, the mind, and the realms of the realms. The Buddha thoroughly expanded the vision and knowledge of his disciples by using his supernatural powers to show them right before their eyes the realms from hell to the Tahoa-Tutai heaven, along with their karmic causes and effects. As for the realms of meditation, form, and formlessness, the Buddha taught them to practice meditation, and the five elders would guide them, and they would immediately see those realms in their minds. In the third sermon, the Buddha told a story about a wheelwright who made two wheels for King Pasatana in ancient times. The wheelwright was careful, attentive, and painstakingly worked on one wheel for 6 months. With the second wheel, due to the king's urging, he was impatient and rushed to finish it in only 6 days. When the carriage was inlaid with gems, gilded with gold, with pearl curtains and sparkling silver flutes, and was pulled by a pair of purebred horses, it had not even been half a yojana when it broke and collapsed. When observed, the first wheel was still solid and sturdy. The second wheel had many defects in the rim, spokes, and axle, so it broke or crumbled. Likewise, monks. Although you have severed all defilements, your past afflictions, karma, and bad habits that you have accumulated for a long time are still evident somewhere through your body, speech, and mind, which have not been tightly controlled. These shortcomings and defects also need to be corrected over a long period of time to be stable and complete. Otherwise, the monks will fall, not falling on the journey of liberation, but falling out of the appearance of the monk's virtue, which is perfect in body, speech, and mind, without any defect. Therefore, the Buddha had to teach in great detail about speech, karma, livelihood, the 3 mental restraints, and a number of rules and rituals, as the inseparable life of a monk in the awakened Sangha, as a model for the 4 groups to follow in the future. At the end of the 3rd discourse, there were questions regarding the old religious tradition, which was now established and flourishing in their home city of Varanasi. In this area, Yasa and his friends, who were in the heart of the phenomenon and the incident, took turns sketching out the context, both general and detailed, very clearly and coherently. They said that Varanasi was the domain, the sacred land of Vedic and Upanishad knowledge. The ideas of cause and effect, rebirth, and samsara were mentioned, but were lost in the hands of the gods with their unclear and arbitrary rewards and punishments. Whoever prayed a lot, sacrificed buffalo, cows, sheep, and goats lavishly, would soon be able to serve at the feet of the gods. Whoever did not believe, blasphemed the gods, or performed ceremonies that seemed contemptuous, would probably be sent to hell. An entire group of professional Brahmins held the monopoly of the gods in their hands, so they freely set up all kinds of altars, small, medium, and great. And yet, everything gave rise to ceremonies. From birth, wedding, cremation, land acquisition, house orientation, illness, trading, going on business, traveling far, boarding a boat, boarding a horse, building a house, setting up a city, beginning of the month, end of the month, middle of the month. Everything has a ceremony, with Brahmins presiding, giving orders, commanding, sprinkling holy water, reading spells, charms, magic, then sacrificing the water god, the fire god, and hundreds of other gods with so much wealth, property, and animal heads. Because everyone wants to go to heaven, the Brahmins set up such buying and selling to make a fat profit, live a life of wealth and honor, have a wife and children, enjoy sensual pleasures with little sweat, and also get to eat and sit first. In the city of Varanasi, there is no profession as healthy, luxurious, prosperous as the profession of a priest. Then the Buddha presented the knowledge of the path of liberation. Tathagata never wanted to establish a new religion. In or out of tradition, Tathagata is not interested. Tathagata's problem is human beings, the true recognition of human beings and their suffering existence. Tathagata does not discuss ideas, humanity, humanism, and humanism that go along with the ladder of values that have been evaluated, established, and conventionally established by humans from ancient times until now. That flesh and blood human being with its emotions, thoughts, soul, and perception. Why is it that sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is sad, sometimes it is joyful, sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is thirsty, sometimes it is cruel, and then it brings suffering to itself and to others? Tathagata examines that human being, sees sorrow, grief, pain, and anxiety in that human being, and then finds the best way to concoct a medicine to escape suffering. The end of suffering has been found. Enlightenment and liberation have been found. Now Tathagata goes everywhere to preach about that path of immortality. It is as simple as that. The Tathagata's teachings do not have any gods, no sacrifices, no bathing in the Ganges River to cleanse sins, or sprinkling holy water to dispel disasters and calamities, no mystical spells, no killing of hundreds of thousands of animals to sacrifice to the fire god, the god Kali, or any supreme deity to beg for something. There is no condemnation, no blessing, no selling, no promises of this life or the next. Even more so, there is no establishment of any sacred or secular authority or hierarchy. There is no propaganda or promotion of any ideal. The Tathagata's teachings and the Tathagata's monks follow the middle way, with few desires and contentment, begging from door to door, being completely destitute and poor, living a life of renunciation and liberation from all the bonds and afflictions of life. Selflessness, humility, silence, and purity are the life of the Tathagata and his Sangha. The intellectual congregation quickly grasped the essence of the sermon. However, someone wanted to ask for more clarity. Venerable world-honored one, bathing in the Ganges River only washes away dirt, but cannot wash away sins. The wise Brahmins also say the same thing, but they also say, only a sacred baptism with serious, proper, and respectful rituals can effectively wash away the sins committed by sinful people. The Buddha rejected that notion, saying that evil karma and sins are created by ourselves with our body, speech, and mind. So if we want to be free from sin and karma and have a pure life, we must know how to purify our body, speech, and mind. No gods are involved in that. Another said, there is also the custom of worshipping the fire god, venerable master. The custom of sacrificing to the sacred fire originated from the Vedas, and the professional Brahmins strictly followed and practiced it. They said that the more heads and blood of animals are worshipped in the ritual, the more merit Agni will bring to heaven to prove the sincerity of the homeowner. Others, especially the ignorant masses of believers, naively believed that the sacred fire will burn away all the sins of those who sincerely worship the fire god, and the cremation ceremonies on the banks of sacred rivers, with a celebrant, sacrifices, and prayers, will bring the soul of the deceased to nirvana. Now, thanks to the world-honored one's revelation, we disciples understand that this is a magical trick of the Brahmin priestly celebrants who sell gods and saints. Another one, venerable sir, bathing in the Ganges River, we only pity the foolish fanatics. After all, they have not harmed anyone. The same goes for worshipping the fire god. At least they know how to fear sin and prevent some evils. Both forms of belief can be tolerated. But in some places, human sacrifices are made, and everywhere, thousands and tens of thousands of animals are killed, which is really an insult to compassion and the justice of life. Buddha nodded gently. You have understood the teachings of the Tathagata correctly. No one can bribe or bribe any god to wash away their bad karma, nor can they use the lives of innocent beings to sacrifice for their own blind religious purposes. Animals, all kinds of cattle, flying cows, and machines are all sentient beings, due to karma. Due to the consequences of bad karma, they are born from lowly eggs and incarnated into the bodies of lower beings. In the future, when they have paid off their karma, they can also return to human form or be reborn in other realms. The teachings of the Tathagata see life as equal, and one must have love and compassion for all sentient beings without discrimination. The Buddha concluded, all so-called formalities, rituals, prayers, sacrifices, and all prohibitions according to the customs, traditions, and practices of tradition, society, and religious beliefs, only bind each other in naive orders and fanatical conventional beliefs, often creating more burdens and suffering for each other in ignorance, prolonging the cycle of birth and death, never leading to enlightenment or liberation. For the Tathagata, those are fetters, prohibitions, blocking spiritual sublimation and spiritual progress. A Srodapana, a stream enterer, has also cut off the three binding ropes, which are self-view, doubt, and prohibitions. Do you know that clearly? There is nothing more clear and wise than that. In addition to the liberated mind and liberated wisdom, the Buddha also gradually opened up rich and multifaceted vision and knowledge for the holy monks to gradually know how to apply expedient wisdom on the path of propagating the Dharma and benefiting living beings. The Dhamma was explained in detail, but the Buddha was still not satisfied. He also arranged them into small groups, telling Kondanya to assign Bhaddiya, Mahanam, Vapa, and Asaji to give detailed instructions so that their concentration would become deeper and their wisdom would become sharper. Meanwhile, the Buddha was also busy with the delegations of lay students. They came for all kinds of reasons, but most of them, after hearing the Dhamma, became two groups of male and female lay followers. The bamboo huts and thatched roofs also withstood the harsh rainy season. At the end of September, the water levels in the rivers and lakes had receded, and the paths here and there were temporarily dry. Thanks to the change of seasons, the space became green, clean, fresh, and cool. The Buddha's intellectual congregation, imbued with the Dharma, cooled and filled with transcendent joy, had a light and airy spirit, and some uttered inspired words, peaceful, serene, and wonderful verses. Knowing that the time had come to further strengthen the means of wisdom on the difficult path of spreading the Dharma in the future, the Buddha gathered the assembly again and preached 2 more important Dharma sessions, the content of which focused on the duties and responsibilities of each member. Because they were all elite and intelligent, they grasped the subject very quickly. In the summary, the Buddha raised his voice, as powerful and eloquent as thunder in the rain. Bhikkhus, the Tathagata and you have escaped all bonds, whether in the human realm, the heavenly realm, the form realm, or the formless realm. Now, let us all go forth like free birds in the sky. Go forth. Fly across the vast rivers and oceans. Set out for the benefit and well-being of the many. Out of compassion, bring goodness, benefit, and happiness to gods and humans. Each person should go their separate ways, not all on the same path. Follow your circumstances to propagate and teach the true Dharma. Preach the teachings to save living beings according to their capacities. You have already drunk the first drop of the Tathagata's teachings. That teaching is perfect in the beginning, perfect in the middle, perfect in the end, and perfect in both meaning and style. Proclaim the holy life of virtue, which is both perfect and pure. There are beings who have a little dust in their eyes. If they do not hear the teachings, they will fall into pitiful depravity. But if they hear them, they will understand, see clearly, and be liberated. Bhikkhus, when you go each in a different direction, the Tathagata will also go. The Tathagata will go to Uruvala, to Senani village to visit the families of the benefactors, and will have the opportunity to convert many people. Then he will go to Magadha, the capital of Rajagaha, to visit King Bimbisara as promised before. Go forth, O monks, raise the banner of the wise, teach the wonderful and immortal Dharma, bring goodness and a peaceful spring to the world. By doing so, you have fulfilled your duties and missions as messengers of the Tathagata in this world of much suffering and little joy. Thus, the Buddha sent out 60 holy arahants to the 4 directions as the first messengers with the most perfect mind and wisdom of liberation, leaving no one behind. The assembly now saw more clearly that from now on they had to be self-reliant, alone on an uncertain journey. They had to contemplate the holy life of mendicant monks, barefoot and headless, without luggage, provisions, without any relatives or friends, completely relying only on themselves. Elder Kondanya suddenly asked a very pertinent question. O world-honored one, this pure, wholesome, and practical Dharma will transform and change many people from many different classes. So when the world-honored one is far away, what should we disciples do to make the 2 groups of male and female attendants take refuge? Also, in the case of giving ordination to novices and monks, what should we disciples do? Buddha smiled. When advising the monks to go to the 4 corners of the world to propagate the Dharma, the Tathagata silently gave each person full authority to decide on that matter. The Tathagata is free, and the monks are also free. Kondanya bowed his head in understanding and then said, "Disciple understands. But here will there be any ritual to distinguish the way of receiving the 2 orders of white-robed lay people, the lesser ordination of novice monks, Pabaja, and the greater ordination of monks, Upasampada? There is no need to give different rituals, especially at this time. They only need to have pure faith, or have more precepts, generosity, towards the 2 groups of lay followers at the beginning. They only need to have pure faith, or have more precepts, wisdom, towards the monks at the beginning. One must consider their faculties and conditions and act accordingly, Kondanya. Then we disciples will do it like this. For lay people, for those who have pure faith in this teaching, we disciples will have them join their hands and kneel at the feet of the ordained bhikkhu, reciting 3 times, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangha Saranam Gacchami. The Buddha nodded. Kondanya continued, for the ordination ceremony of novice monks and nuns, the disciples will have them shave their hair and beard, carry a bowl, terracotta or wood, wear yellow inner and outer robes, leaving the left shoulder exposed. Bow clasp their hands respectfully before the monk who is giving the ordination, and also recite the 3 refuges 3 times as above. The Buddha nodded again. Kondanya seemed to think for a moment. Everywhere is the land, the territory of the 6 traditional Brahmin sects, and it is said that now there are also 6 other sects that are not traditional. There will be opposition, insults, challenges, or debates happening on the arduous path of practice. The disciples have little education, limited knowledge, and are not equipped with theoretical subjects. If they meet wandering orators, learned and profound scholars, with skillful tongues and cunning words, how should the disciples deal with them? Kondanya's concern was very practical. The Buddha suddenly entered great concentration in 1 or 2 moments, then emerged from it, returned to near concentration, and emitted 6 colored rays of light in pairs, covering his body, surrounding the asatha tree, and then spreading out into space. The 60 arahants also sat silently in great concentration, admiring the beauty of the features of a fully enlightened one. After a moment, the rays of light were withdrawn. The Buddha looked around at the assembly of disciples, then calmly and sternly taught, "People and dharma are one. All of you have an aura that radiates outward. That is the inner realization, revealed outwardly through pure speech, karma, and livelihood, through dignity, discipline, through minimal desires, contentment, poverty, and freedom from any contamination from the external world or from the internal mind. So for those who slander and insult, you have the armor of patience and compassion. For those who want to debate, tell them, the world debates with the Tathagata, with the Tathagata's disciples. The Tathagata and the Tathagata's disciples do not debate with the world. And if they want to argue, tell them, the Tathagata's dharma is for learning, cultivating, and practicing. It is for wisdom, spiritual intuition to experience within, not outside knowledge, speech, intellect, reason, and multifaceted reasoning. If there is a need to speak, you should speak without any hesitation. Why is that? Because we may know all or know 1 or 2 parts of their teachings and thoughts, but the teachings, thoughts, and path of practice of the Tathagata that are present in the minds and wisdom of the teachers, they do not know anything. The Holy Sangha was enlightened. They knew what to do, how to cope on the thorny and dusty path of life. Buddha suddenly released a bright white halo from the top of his forehead and said one last sentence to send his disciples on their way. The monks must keep this guiding idea in mind and act. Be silent as the Dharma, and speak as the Dharma. That was in the year 587 BC, on the 16th day of the 10th lunar month. The Buddha had his first rainy season retreat. Then he and 60 holy monks left Deer Park, settled in Isipatana, and then scattered to the 4 corners of the world for their sacred and noble mission. Who knows that these first footprints are the greatest footprints in the history of religion, culture, and civilization. Dear ladies and gentlemen, you have just listened to the video about the life of Buddha Shakyamuni, adapted from the work A Life, a Sun and Moon by Master Geoy Duck. This video series will be broadcast at 7 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the YouTube channel Buddhist Story. We sincerely thank you for watching. To not miss the next episodes, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you find the content useful, please share this video with your relatives and friends. All your comments are very valuable to us. Please leave comments below the video so we can discuss and share together. Thank you, and see you again in the next episodes of the video series, The Life of Buddha Shakyamuni.